Benoit freaking Blanc and I are gonna ask you all some questions, and you're gonna answer them. We're gonna get to the bottom of who killed Monsignor Wicks and why, and then that's it.
Ryan, you're getting my first question because I love hearing about how these films evolve. What is the biggest difference between draft one of this screenplay and the finished film that everybody is seeing and loving now?
I mean, the biggest difference is the finished film hopefully is good. Anyone who's a writer will tell you draft one is this was the hardest thing I've ever written, and this was a really tough writing process. It took a long time to dial in, and that was both because the mystery is a little more intricate, but also the themes in it, the fact that it's about faith, and I wanted to get that right. It's something that's really personal to me. I used to be a Christian and I'm not anymore. And it's still something that's very personal. And I don't know. So there was, and I wanted to both not just be tiptoeing around things and trying not to offend, but I also wanted it to have a generous spirit. Dialing all that stuff in, it was a long trek from draft one to what we ended up with. But I'm even more proud because of that, of where we ended up.
Is there anything you would wind up calling a break story moment? Something you came up with along the way that made you think, like, I got it now?
I got it now. I'll say there's a scene in the middle. I'll try to avoid spoilers, but there's a scene with Josh, and he's on the phone with Bridget Everett. And
I might have to bring that scene up later.
Okay.
I'll guard it with my life when I do, but that is a brilliantly written and performed scene.
I appreciate it. That was a moment where I'm like, okay, I think we found kind of the heart of the movie.
I'm going to come back to that, but I will brand it with a spoiler warning to keep it nice and safe. First, a broader question for you, Josh, because I love asking actors about having aha moments with characters, but in particular when they're playing characters that like carry themselves in a very specific way that is necessary to the success of the film. So whether it was in prep or on set, do you remember the very first thing you did that made you say to yourself, like, I really get who Jud is now?
Well, it's a really good question because I think there is often, in fact, there's always a moment of that, of kind of, I often think it's like, the best performances, in my opinion, where there is an inevitable merger of the actor and the character. And it's often the moment where they align, those things come together, that happens. You have this moment of clarity with it. I have to say, I mean, the first time I read the script, it was that. And I think that's obviously a testament to Ryan's writing. I think I was also primed and ready to discuss the things that Ryan's just talked about faith and about our understanding of God and religion. And in this premise, being a big fan of these films, to sort of have this character that I really understood and really kind of, shared thoughts with and feelings, that was a pleasure. So it really kind of came very early on, really.
Perfect casting, sincere, like across the board, but I really appreciated how much you soar as an anchor in this film. I will creep closer to my spoiler question, but I feel like this is still in safe territory. Yeah. There's a particular scene that I wanted to focus on, and especially because of the lighting. And you do this throughout the movie, but I'll pick one that happens earlier on. It's the scene with you and Daniel in the church, and we just see the lighting evolve. So I'd love to hear from both of you about that. What was it like working with Steve, designing that particular lighting scheme, and then how does that either like pose a challenge for you to maybe hit certain marks or specific beats, or does it maybe help your performance?
Well, that was the first conversation I had with Steve Yedlin, my cinematographer. Was I wanted that was a set. The inside of the church is a set on a stage, and I wanted it to feel like the outside world was constantly informing it. So I wanted those big dramatic theatrical lighting changes that happen in real life. When the sun goes behind the cloud, it's sunny in the room, and suddenly everything gets not just dark, but kind of cool in tone, and the emotional tenor changes. So Steve did a lot of work to pre-rig it so that we could basically play the light changes on his laptop like we were playing music and just play them to the scene. And the thing that makes me happiest is when friends see the movie and they think we just got lucky with the sun going there or something. I'm like, that would have been very, very lucky, but I'm so happy you feel that.
The first time I thought that, then I'm like, oh no, like they're wizards with that kind of stuff. They probably planned this perfectly.
Makes me very happy, yeah.
How is that from your perspective?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, this is like the genius of Ryan and Steve. It's that, Ryan's really, truly, all this other stuff is going on in the background, which is why Ryan is Ryan and what makes him such a great filmmaker. But the truth is, it's not like it feel from an actor's perspective, it feels like everything is catered for the actor, is to allow them to give the best performance they can give. And so to take your example, no, Ryan and Steve didn't sit me down and say, by the way, at that line, the sun's going to come out. But it is extraordinary, and it impacts your, all the feelings that come out in that moment, which you're trying to conjure as an actor, but having these lighting rigs, which were extraordinary. And as Ryan said, the set was extraordinary, and these stained glass windows, and there's something very eerie when the light changes in any church, but through the stained glass, and how if light comes through those windows, it does feel otherworldly and spiritual, and when it doesn't, it's so cold and overpowering. And it felt like these lighting shifts were the kind of the cinematic way of telling the sort of Father Jud Brolin side of the things. I keep calling it Brolin, but for Wicks to have these different sides of the same coin.
So effective. I got to wrap with you soon, so I'll raise the spoiler warning to briefly touch on that particular moment in the movie, the Louise moment. I'd love to hear about that from both of your perspectives. What was it like figuring out that that was key to cracking the script, but also that Father Jud's arc needed that in that moment? And what is it like doing a scene like that, where I have to imagine a phone scene, maybe you don't have a traditional scene partner?
Well, writing-wise, it was an interesting moment because, the whole movie is about kind of the relationship between Jud and Blanc. And Blanc is very much not a believer. Jud very much is. But Jud is in this horrible situation, and he finds himself kind of caught up in the gamified thing of Blanc's trying to find the guilty person and solve the crime, which is what a detective does in these movies. And so at this point in the movie, Jud and the audience hopefully have been swept along with that. Here's our mission. We're going to find the bad guy. We're going to get him. We're going to solve this case and put everything right. And at some point, Jud has this road to Damascus moment where he remembers that he's a priest, and he remembers that is actually antithetical to what he's set on this earth to do. And so it was having a moment where everything would stop, and kind of we would reset and remind Jud and also the audience kind of what his moral compass is supposed to be at. And it doesn't line up with Blanc or the movie or the genre that we're in, intentionally so. And then you get on set and you have Josh and Bridget Everett performing it, and I love watching that scene.
Did you have Bridget there for it?
Yeah. Bridget, and also just on that, she was extraordinary, wasn't she?
Yeah,
she gives everything, and it's really scenes like that are so not easy, but so straightforward in the sense of you feel as a character that you need that. And it's, when you're prepping a character, there is this sort of idea of direction of where they, what their vocation or their intentions are, and how that shifts. And as Ryan said, that he gets swept up in the game of Blanc. Mm-hmm. But a call like that is so kind of rips your heart out. And so it's very straightforward to play when you've got Ryan leading it and Bridget, who's brilliant.
An exceptional moment, an all-around phenomenal film.
Thanks,
Congratulations, Perri. Congratulations yet again.
Thanks so much. Really
I don't know how you do it.